Welcome to the Startup of the Year podcast, where each episode we showcase exciting new companies from around the world. This podcast is produced by Established, creators of the Startup of the Year program. Established is focused on helping organizations with their innovation, startup, and communication strategies.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Startup of the Year podcast. I'm Frank Gruber, your host, the co-CEO of Established. And on this episode, I'm talking to Polly Rodriguez. She's the founder and CEO of Unbound, a sexual wellness company for women. They make and sell vibrators, lubricants, and accessories online, along with their digital magazine as well. They also have an amazing Instagram. If you're on Instagram, you want to check that out. Polly and Unbound competed in our 2017 Startup of the Year program and finished in the top 5 that year. She did a fantastic job, and at the time, the category that she was in and continues to be one that some investors may not look at. So she's got an amazing story. She's going to share some of it here in a moment. So I'm excited to have Polly joining us today. Before we get started, though, I wanted to share some insights from our team, the Established team that produces the Startup of the Year program. They've got a lot of experience, I'd say decades and decades of experience with both startups and in the corporate world. So for those of you listening, I hope you find these tips helpful. First off, we're going to have our Director of Partnerships, Jacqui Dietrich, share an update about our partner programs. Jacqui?
Hey, startup community. I wanted to share some updates with you from our community partners today, and you can find all the links and more information in the show notes. For our service-based startups out there, our friends at Founders First Capital Partners provide revenue-based growth capital without equity or asset collateralization. They have upcoming accelerator opportunities. You can learn about that and more information about their products at their website. From the folks at Backstage Capital, for those who identify as a woman, person of color, or LGBTQ, they host office hours for you. If you're interested in participating, visit their website. You can sign up to get next steps in the coming weeks when those start up again. For early stage social entrepreneurs, the application to join Halcyon Incubator's 14th cohort in the spring of 2021 is now open. This includes 5 months of free rent in DC, a stipend, and access to their amazing community of social entrepreneurs, mentors, investors, and so on. And speaking of great networks, there's been some great stuff coming out of the American InnoCities. And if you are not signed up to keep up with innovation and entrepreneurs in your city, be sure to visit the website, check to see if your city is listed there, and then subscribe to get those local updates. And finally, if you're a leader in the startup ecosystem, the team at Startup Space launched a podcast recently. There's a new episode every Monday to inspire you with the real work that's being done by practitioners across the country who are breaking barriers for entrepreneurs. So be sure to check that out. So that's some great stuff for this week. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Great stuff, Jacqui. Next up, we've got our co-CEO, Jen Consalvo, sharing some advice for startups as they try to find their path.
Hey, everyone. So today I want to share something with you about again, as you get started when you're trying to get a company up and running. Oftentimes, and I would actually say most of the time, as a founder, you're running every department, and you are the department. You're doing a lot of different things, and you're wearing a lot of hats. And then at times, things will feel like they're not moving ahead, or things are going wrong, or you start to get concerned, or you get frustrated. And there are 2 things I want to share that have really served me well during those times. And this is not just in the earliest of days. This is, even years into a new venture. And these 2 things are important to do together. One is dive into your numbers and your details. So when things are frustrating, it may seem like the last thing you want to do is really dive into things. And you may want to step away. You may want to go, have a drink, forget about what's going on. But I can tell you that the biggest comfort I've ever gotten when things were not going well was really diving in and letting the details and the path show itself to me through numbers, through writing out all the details of what's going on, where I'm going, what we want to do, what I think we need to do, and just being in it, and then allowing yourself to sort of just sit and sort of marinate in it for a while. Don't do anything drastic with the information. Just understand it, go to bed, sleep on it. But for me, that tends to be has always been a very clarifying action and very comforting. But the second is equally important. And if you can do them together, more powerful. And that's, as you do that exercise, write down the things that are going well. Write down the things that are positives for you and celebrate that in some way, whether it's just, a pat on the back or, allowing yourself a little treat, something to celebrate that moment, or those things or those achievements. Those two things together can be a very powerful tool to, number one, get you through tough times, but number two, open up new possibilities that you might not have thought of before. And, that might sound a little woo-woo, but it really does work. It shifts your mindset from wherever you might be, thinking that things are not going right, thinking that everything's wrong, whatever it might be. It shifts you into a positive mindset of possibility. And once you get there, new opportunities arise. And on one of our next episodes, I'll share some concrete examples of that. But I want to share that because I think some people really hit those points and just don't know what to do. So just a little advice. Hope things are going well. And back to you, Frank.
Thanks so much, team. Those are some great insights and some great information. Hopefully the listeners that are following will find it helpful and will find their way. One more thing I wanted to share, I'm super, super psyched about, is our 2020 8th Annual Startup of the Year Summit, which is coming up on November 16th through 18th. You need to go RSVP right now. It's a free event. Just go to summit.startupofyear.com. You can find out more information. There's a snazzy little sizzle reel from last year, and you can find out about the speakers and judges and mentors that will be coming out to be a part of this online event. The summit's going to curate an experience for founders, seasoned entrepreneurs, corporate innovators. There'll be a lot of investors there. There's an opportunity to build relationships and fuel your success. There's going to be our 2020 Startup of the Year competition finals coming out. So we'll have the top 100 startups competing for the Startup of the Year, which will basically be the opportunity at glory for being called Startup of the Year, but also $20,000 in potential investment from Startup of the Year's fund, which is the Established Ventures team. So super excited about that, and looking forward to seeing all these great companies. We've already been vetting through the companies over the last several weeks, and we're excited to be getting those companies locked in to be part of this competition. And I have to say the bar has just been raised. People are focused and building amazing companies out there, and it's giving me a lot of energy because I'm excited that there's so many smart people out there trying to change the world. So we'll also have some speakers at this event. We'll have Tim Draper, who's from Draper VC, as well as Draper University. He'll be doing a fireside chat. We've got Kara Golden from Hint Water. She'll be talking about her new book, Undaunted, and kind of her journey with creating a company that's building a product, but also she's a female founder too, and a female CEO. So a lot of great tips and tricks there that'll be coming out, as well as Mike Evans. He's the co-founder of Grubhub and the founder of Fixer, and he's got a new book coming out soon. I'm excited to be talking to him as well. And there's just a bunch of others. We just added Jewel Burke Solomon as a speaker. She's runs the Google for Startups program, as well as Collab Capital, which is a fund that's out there, and she's based out of Atlanta. So super excited to have her and catch up with her soon. So a lot of great people coming. We're going to have some amazing judges judging these companies from some of the top VC firms and investor networks in the country. So you're going to want to be a part of that as well, to see who's there and get the feedback with these great companies as they pitch. And one exciting new thing this year that I'm super psyched about is the Start of the Year .us Veteran Start of the Year program, which is a new category in partnership with .us. And basically what we're doing is we're going to be giving a $10,000 non-dilutive cash prize to the startup that is the .us Veteran Startup of the Year. So pretty cool. It's open up to U.S. veterans or their spouse or dependents. And so we had some amazing applications come in from companies that fit that criteria, and we'll be announcing those soon. But great to have .us as a partner, as you know, they're offering this opportunity for a company to shine and get some cash to get that dream going, or keep that dream going. And then also just to the greater community, anybody listening, if you've got an idea or you want to get something started, they are also helping us create this opportunity to give you a free domain on us. Literally, you can go to the in the show notes, there'll be a link, but basically they're giving away a free .us domain. And if you go check that out, you can go get one today and get that new idea started, or maybe use it as a shorter domain. Like we have established.us as our domain, and then we also have est.us as a shortened domain for our email. So lots of great opportunities to get involved, a lot of great opportunities from some of our partners. If you're listening and you want to be a partner of the Startup of the Year program, please do reach out. You can just reach out at sponsor@est.us and connect with us directly. So lots of cool stuff. I'm super psyched. This is that exciting time of the year where there's just so much energy. And as we lead up to our culmination with the Startup of the Year Summit, I'm getting psyched. We're working really hard as a team, and I'm really proud of all the work that we're doing. So enough of me talking. Let's listen in, and actually let's talk to Polly a little bit about what she's up to. Polly, welcome. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining from Brooklyn, actually, in New York.
Oh, nice. I wasn't sure with COVID and everything if people have been kind of migrating around to different locations and working from everywhere. So I wasn't quite sure if you're back yet, or if you did do any kind of migration.
Yeah, I pretty much stayed in New York most of the time. I went home to see my parents for a little bit, and got to live in their basement, which was, every 33-year-old's dream. But it was nice to spend some time with them. But right. I pretty much have been in New York throughout all of it.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive. Now, if I remember correctly, you're from the Midwest, like St. Louis area. Is that correct?
Yeah. Originally from St. Louis. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So it's probably good to get to see some trees and maybe a little bit of, a little more greenery probably than Brooklyn. So good to be back there.
For sure.
All right. So diving in, can you share a little bit more about what Unbound is, that the listeners that are listening may not know everything you're up to? So just give us kind of a brief overview of Unbound.
Yeah. So Unbound is a sexual wellness company. We design and manufacture 50 different products spanning vibrators, lubricants, and accessories. It's a category that for a long time has operated in the shadows, and the majority of the products made historically contain carcinogens in them, and often are really overpriced or poorly made. And so for us, our focus is on really trying to bring the category mainstream through elevated design, body safe materials, and just really affordable pricing. And we do that by selling direct to consumer. So started working on the company in 2014, and coming up on my 6-year anniversary. And it's been a wonderful, crazy journey.
Wow. 6 years. That's impressive. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. And so how did the idea get started? Where did the idea come from?
Yeah. So, I think like most founders had a personal experience, which made me realize how bad of a category this is to shop in, especially for women, femme, and non-binary people. When I was 21 years old, I went through a stage 3 colon cancer diagnosis, and I had to undergo radiation treatment, and the radiation beamed through my reproductive organs, and I went through menopause, and my doctors didn't really talk to me about it. And so I found myself on the internet trying to figure out what to do, and ended up at a Hustler Hollywood next to the airport in St. Louis, Missouri. And it was just a really mortifying shopping experience that always stuck with me. And I went on to work for Senator Claire McCaskill on the Affordable Care Act after losing health insurance from cancer. And then in management consulting at Deloitte for 3 years, and then at a dating startup called Grouper. And while I was at Grouper, I started to really meet a lot of women in tech in New York City. And I met my co-founder, Sarah Jane, who had been working nights and weekends on this subscription box company called Unbound Box. And it was something that I was really passionate. And so we teamed up and started working on it together, and really just bootstrapped for the first 2.5 years of working nights and weekends while also working, 2 to 3 other part-time jobs. But I think for both of us growing up in the Midwest, sexual wellness was something that wasn't really discussed, whether it was in school or with our doctors. It was just something that felt always really taboo and difficult to talk about. And so our whole goal was to try to create an environment, an online destination where it didn't feel as scary to explore your sexual wellness and shop for products and read content.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And gosh, I'm thinking about, I lived in Vegas for a while, and obviously I know there's a big hustler kind of thing over there. Just getting that, like, you guys are night and day as far as like the experience. So can you share about like the experience and what you're trying to do to attract new customers with that user experience compared to like the hustlers or I can't think of any other brands right now because you mentioned that one, but others that sell those types of products that obviously aren't catered to your audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think about like my shopping experience of going into one of those stores, and I think for one, there's so many aspects to it. If you're shopping for the first time, it's really intimidating. If you go on Amazon, there's 60,000 SKUs in the category, and trying to figure out just what the products are, what is body safe, what would work for me, can be a really overwhelming experience. And a lot of the times it's embarrassing to go up and talk to a stranger or a random sales associate about such a personal need and intimate product. And so for us, it was really about not only creating a website that was welcoming and friendly, but it made people feel good about the shopping experience, kind of flipping it on its head, where instead of, trying to sneak in and out of the store as quickly as possible, you really felt proud about shopping in the category and trying to make it something that we're no longer ashamed of. And I think in addition to the online shopping experience, which I just personally believe is more comfortable from the privacy of your home, it's about the product design. And historically, I mean, the vibrator was invented in the late 1800s. It's been around for forever. But the industry itself has always been dominated by older white guys who, to no surprise, a lot of the products were designed to look like penises, and they're really phallic. And I think for a lot of women, both from a biological perspective in terms of, stimulation and the biology behind how that works, and just aesthetics, there was no reason why everything needed to look like a pink phallic jelly dildo. So it was about how do you create an elevated design experience where someone could leave this out on their nightstand or have it somewhere and they wouldn't feel mortified if somebody were to walk in and see it. So yeah, those are just, I think, some of the ways that we're trying to engage and really build community around just women, femme, and non-binary people feeling like they don't have to be ashamed over their bodies and they don't have to apologize to anyone for wanting to explore this part of their life.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, do you sell products that men might use as well?
Yeah, we do carry products for men. Actually, 30% of anyone that comes to our site identifies as a man. So yes, we have products for men as well, and are hoping to build that out in addition to the product set that we have today, which largely caters to women. I think it's interesting that for just in terms of sexuality, masturbation is far more stigmatized for women than it is for men. But I think using products is actually more stigmatized for men than it is for women. And so I think that is something that we're really excited to tackle in the next year or so.
Seems like another huge opportunity for sure. Okay.
Mhm.
So you talked about bootstrapping. Let's talk about, well, actually, first off, let's talk about this business model. Assume it's just, direct to consumer. So you're selling products, they're paying you, you're taking a cut, you're making products, you're taking a cut, and all that.
Mhm.
Is that pretty much what it is, or anything else there?
Yeah, well, the industry itself, it's a really fascinating industry because there are all these crazy barriers due to the stigma associated with it. And so historically, similar to a lot of CPG products, you have distributors who are some of the largest players. So they're taking product from like the massive manufacturers that have existed, and then distributing to all these small mom and pop shops. The top 4 retailers in the United States combined in this category make up less than 10% market share. And so you have a really fragmented marketplace where distributors are taking often 60% of the margin, which is why you see vibrators that just cost so much money when they really shouldn't. And so, yeah, we're about 90% of our sales are direct to consumer, but we actually have seen one of the more interesting trends is wholesale has really been picking up. And in particular, what excites me is that the products are now being placed on beauty websites. And I think that that's really exciting, because when we first started the company, I would try to, talk to some of the bigger retailers and wholesalers out there, and they would want us, put us in the lingerie section, and beauty is such a better vertical to be placed in. And so it's been exciting to see the wholesale opportunities grow as well.
That's really interesting. Times are changing, and you guys are
Yeah.
leading that whole storm, as you will. So, can you share, maybe, do you know, like, or can you pinpoint maybe some of the things that have helped make that possible? Like, because it's obviously, you're seeing more of a feminist movement out there. You're seeing a lot more change in the marketplace as far as people's values. But I'm curious if there's anything you can pinpoint, because you're in this 24/7, that kind of has made it easier.
That's a really good question. It's kind of been, there isn't like a singular thing that we can point to, but I think it is like a perfect storm of events where, you have pop culture, which has changed the narrative, everything from Sex and the City to 50 Shades of Grey, and these different kind of popular culture influences that have taken the category mainstream. I think there's also the political environment that you alluded to, which is women's bodies are still being, scrutinized and politicized and regulated. And especially under the Donald Trump administration, there's been this resurgence of women kind of taking ownership over their bodies and just kind of pushing back on the continued policing of their own body. And then I think the other thing is just historically, again, there were mostly men and family owned and operated businesses. And now we're starting to see female founders and non-binary founders starting businesses in this category, where historically, because of the taboo and the reputation risk of being starting a business affiliated with sex, women didn't start businesses in the category. Women couldn't even have credit cards until 1975. And so it's no surprise that there weren't a lot of female-founded businesses.
I mean, thanks to Ruth, Bader Ginsburg,
yeah.
basically. I mean, so, obviously today is a very special day, and for that, she's being laid in, or she's actually laying in capital, right, for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously, that one strikes close to home for a lot of people, and obviously, I really appreciate everything she's able to do for the U.S. with freedom and equity or equality. I think a lot of people don't know that, right? Like, that what you just said is, like, you said it trivially, but it's people don't realize that was a thing, like, not that long ago.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy to think that my mom, who's now 68 years old, like, couldn't have her own credit card when she was around my age. And
blows my mind.
Yeah. And so I think we're definitely making strides. I think it's exciting to see, wellness as this new emerging vertical that is, especially during COVID, getting a lot of attention, because people are really stressed out and looking for ways to feel healthy and to go easy on their bodies. And so I think all of those trends have fed into this category finally emerging as mainstream, because when we look at the category for men, there's so many brand names that exist in the sexual wellness space, whether it's Viagra or Trojan or Playboy or Hims or Roman. And so it's exciting to start to see these startups emerge that are catering to the other 50% of the population.
Definitely. And obviously want to mention, rest in peace, our RBG. We appreciate what you did. So didn't mention that a moment ago, but I wanted to say that. All right. So let's switch gears here and talk about, you'd mentioned, 6 years, going on 6 years here. Some of it was right, getting going. I'm assuming you were bootstrapping and getting it going. Can you share a little bit about that journey and what that was like, especially in this category that some, folks may not be comfortable with investing in?
Yeah. I mean, it was horrible. it just, I think I worked at a startup that had gone through Y Combinator, and getting funding seemingly from the outside looking in was so easy. And I thought, this is such a huge market opportunity. There's nobody in the brand space. Like, how could we not get venture funding? And it took 2.5 years, and I pitched over 300 times before I got my first yes from an investor. And the rejection was just endless. I mean, we couldn't get into accelerators. We couldn't, get into angel pitching competitions. And so we just focused in the beginning really, because I went out to try to raise a pre-seed and just got like universal no's across the board. And so I realized that we were going to have to build a lot of traction to really prove to people that this is a viable market opportunity and not just like a taboo vice company. And so it took building the company to where we were doing, I think, close to like $75,000 a month in sales before we were able to really get VCs to take us seriously, which was tough. And then, pitching something that is as personal and requires as much vulnerability as a sexual wellness company does was not easy. I mean, I got laughed out of rooms. I got asked wildly inappropriate questions. But I think ultimately it made me a tougher founder because I got good at handling those situations and trying to mitigate and then ultimately raising venture capital. But yeah, bootstrapping was so hard. I had like 5 credit cards out and was working, 2 part-time jobs in addition to Unbound. And I think there was one year where like my income on my tax return was like $25,000 and I was living in New York City.
Wow.
It was rough, but if you have a vision and a dream, you just kind of have to like fully commit to doing whatever it takes to get it off the ground. But it certainly felt lonely and hard for those first 2.5 years.
Wow. Talk about your resilience. That's it's obviously a note to your character and your co-founder's character to be able to get through that. That's really hard. I think a lot of people would have quit. So props to you and keeping going. And we met in 2017. So
Yeah.
you participated in the Startup of the Year program, which at that point was still had partnered with part of tech.co. But so tell me a little bit about that. How did we connected with you? You did, obviously you pitched amazing. You ended up being one of the top 5 companies that year out of 1,000 plus companies, bubbled to the top, and then ended up pitching a group of investors and did a really great job. Curious, since then, like, can you talk us through kind of leading up to that and then doing that and then kind of after and how that's all kind of played out?
Yeah, I mean, I think so the other just important thing to note about this category is we're not allowed to advertise on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Pinterest or Snapchat or any of these things. And so for us, especially around 2017 when we were fundraising, I was just trying to get in front of as many people as I could, and the Startup of the Year competition was a really great platform, not only to get in front of investors, but to just get noticed in press and to get our name out there. And at the time when we pitched that, we were also trying to pivot from selling other people's products, which we did for the first 2.5 years, where we were just basically an e-commerce shop, to vertically integrating and making our own products, which requires a lot of just money and insight. And so that competition really was at a pinnacle moment where we were trying to make this huge switch where we were going from selling over 2,000 different products on our e-commerce site to selling about 15 that we made ourselves. And it was hard to make that switch, but we ended up doing it. And since then, we've just really been focused on designing and developing next generation products.
Wow. And thank you for the Startup of the Year love there. Appreciate it.
It was a really great experience. I think there are a lot of startup competitions where people are kind of really like cold to us because we are a little bit out there in terms of like what we do. And everyone at the Startup of the Year competition was just really, it was a wonderful experience, super supportive, great people. And it was also really fun. I just had a really good time.
Well, that's great to hear. So tell me now, how did, after that, tell me about your fundraising situation now. So you've raised a little bit of money, or what happened, I guess, with the fundraising? Because I know you said you took 300 no's to get to a yes. Where's that at? And what are you thinking with that? And how are you doing from a profitability perspective for all that you want to share?
Yeah, I'm happy to share more on that. So ended up raising all in about 3.5 million in our seed round, which took place in 2017. And to be honest, there kind of are like the market dynamics that go on, and then there's the company dynamics. From a company perspective, we hit profitability in 2019. And for us, it's really been about focusing not on dumping so much money into customer acquisition, but really taking the margin that we make on each product and investing in new product innovation, building out community, like really trying to find unique ways to just capture customers because we don't have those traditional channels available to us. You have one of the things I've struggled with is trying to figure out whether or not we should raise a Series A. I think that more broadly in the market right now, D2C kind of used to be this darling category in like 2016 to 2018. And then there was this shift that happened in 2019 to 2020 and this year, where a lot of companies, I think, just spent way too much on customer acquisition relative to what their lifetime value was of their customers. And I think VCs realized that, direct to consumer has exits that are usually multiples of 3 to 5x, and a lot of the companies that they had bet very heavily on had let their unit economics get totally upside down. And so it's a weird market to try to raise in right now if you're D2C. And I think for us, being able to steer the ship in the direction that we want by having control over our board of directors and not having to be so beholden to investors has been a crucial part of our success in being able to do really whatever we want. So I don't know that we'll raise more funding. I think like we're, right now growing at about, this year we're up 150% year over year and profitable. And so it's kind of like, if we can maintain what we have, that's kind of the path I think we want to follow.
Wow, that's fantastic. And that's fantastic to hear about the growth. I mean, especially in a year that's been, well, I can't even tell you a year that's been like this. I mean, it's been nonstop, crazy. I kind of equate the mascot of this year as like maybe a dumpster fire. So anyway, I hope that everything's been going great. It sounds like everything's been going great with that. But can you tell me, has the business been impacted at all with the stuff that's been happening with the pandemic and everything else?
It's been impacted positively. We've just seen such a surge in demand because, one, like, people are stuck at home. And so this is an industry that actually is inversely correlated to economic downturn. So during the Great Recession, this industry did quite well. And similarly, we're seeing that now for a different set of reasons. But the thing that has been challenging is supply chain. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of products that are manufactured overseas, such as a substantial portion of ours, usually will fly over on commercial flights that people are taking for vacation, for business, for whatever. And with the vast majority of those flights now grounded because no one's traveling, getting products overseas becomes a very difficult and it's expensive endeavor. And so we've had to really totally redo our supply chain and our forecasting to place much larger reorders, because in addition to demand going through the roof, we also now products just have to ship by sea because there just aren't enough flights, and the ones that do exist, the pricing is it's literally 5 times what it used to cost. So
wow,
that's been tricky to navigate, but we've done a good job of just trying to adapt.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. So with that, I'm curious because I'm always interested in supply chain, and a lot of different things are created overseas. Is there a possibility with that 5-time increase to build it in the United States and make it, if it's going to cost that much more? I mean, I know it's going to cost more to do it in the United States, but would that make sense, or is that not an option? There's not providers for that.
The thing it's the latter. The thing there's some manufacturers in California, but for the most part, the United States doesn't have, like, we do make our lubricants and condoms, which are regulated by the FDA in the United States and in Canada. But there aren't that many facilities that make these products here in the US. And so, we've been looking more to do things locally, but there just aren't that many people that have the capabilities like they do overseas.
No, that makes sense. All right. Well, congrats on the growth and everything, and obviously navigating the little hiccups along the way with the changes in costs. I mean, that's probably a little nerve-wracking too, but it seems like you're weathering that storm. All right. So let's talk about maybe some of you talked a little bit about pitching and some of the, what that looks like. Are there any other tips or tricks that you'd give to startup founders that have that idea, maybe that just like you wanted to maybe not work at a big consulting firm anymore and wanted to take an idea and just run with it?
Yeah. Oh, I have so many. I think where to start. I mean, for starters, one of the mistakes I made was I had saved up $5,000, and I remember thinking, like, and it's so laughable now, but I was like, yeah, this is enough money. Like, I'll have the company like profitable and up and running and revenue generating before I run out of money. And obviously that did not happen. And so I think in the beginning, there's so much iteration that has to happen to find the illustrative product market fit. And so I would recommend like really trying to keep your full-time job and push the company as far as possible until you have product market fit. Because for so many of us, we don't have a financial safety net. And so it's really hard to, focus on building your business when you're worried about how you're going to pay rent and like pay your bills. And so to the extent that you can iterate on the company and still have a solid source of income, I would encourage people to do that for as long as possible. At the same time, when you go to meet with investors, they always say they're not going to fund you unless you're full time. And so making that leap is really hard, and you want to make sure that you do it at the right time. I think similarly, you really do have to, every category is different, but for us, we really did have to prove significant traction before investors would write checks. And I see a lot of founders that are out pitching like way before they're even generating revenue. And my advice would be like really focus on building the business first, because fundraising turns into a full-time job and then some. And so while you're fundraising, it's very hard to grow the business as well. And so you have to really be strategic about how and when you're spending your time, because VCs will almost always take meetings because that's their job. And you want to make sure that you're not just taking meetings so that they can keep tabs on your company, but that you're going out when you're really ready.
That's great advice. I mean, you're right. That whole process of raising funds is like, it can absorb all your time. So I think, and when you don't have, you're trying to do too many things at one time, that's a problem. So great advice. I'd love to hear who you kind of look up to. Who are some of the mentors or people that you derive energy or thoughts from, inspiration from?
Yeah, I think one of the things, like when you first started the company, I was like, I think 28 when I first started working on Unbound. And, you're at that professional arc where, it's your friends, you've been working for maybe 6-7 years and people are starting to make real money. And then all of a sudden, like you're not, and you're starting from scratch and it feels really, really lonely. You don't really have a lot of people to talk to. It's really difficult every day. And so one of the things that I would highly recommend is trying to network and find friendships with other founders that you can relate to and that you can talk to. For me, having other female founders in New York, in LA, and San Francisco has been invaluable in terms of just feeling like I have a community of people that I can go to when things are hard. And in terms of mentors, I wish there were more in the startup world. It's something that I think consulting, for all of its problems and how much I hated it, it offered a lot of mentorship, whereas in the startup world, there isn't that much. I think there are investors out there that I really admire and am close with, like Katie Shea, who was one of our first angel investors, and is a former founder herself. I love Nisha Dua at BVG Ventures. She's just an incredible person and really passionate about supporting female founders. And then one of our investors, her name is Barbara Donahue, and she's one of the partners at Manzanita Capital. And they've been in consumer products for forever. They own like Diptyque and Byredo, and she's been really helpful in that she understands consumer and the way it works, and isn't impatient, like really understands what it means to thoughtfully build a company. And so I think trying to find mentors that are values aligned is crucial and important, so that when you have to make hard decisions, you have someone that you can turn to for advice and insight.
Those are great. Thank you for sharing some of those, and hopefully some of our listeners will find time to check out those folks, and maybe they can connect with them as well if they're looking for people that are, that could guide them. But I wanted to share, we're almost at the end here. I wanted to see if there's an opportunity to share any updates or new products or plugs that you want to get out there about what's going on with the company.
Yeah, so we just launched a new product called Puff, which is a new vibrator. It's suction technology, and it has been the most successful product we've ever launched. We've sold like close to 6,000 in about 2 months. So that's been incredible. We're actually releasing another product that I can't spoil what it is, but it's going to be out October 28th.
October 28th.
Right ahead of the holidays. So we've been working on that one for 2 years, and we're just really excited about it. So yeah, I mean, we're just continuing to expand. continuing to innovate and create new products and hopefully finally take this category mainstream.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I think I could talk to you for hours. And I was thinking about even diving into the how do you build products, but we just are short on time here. So with that, maybe we'll have to do a follow-up at some point here in the future. Can you share for people out there that want to connect with you or find what you're doing or find your company, where can they find you? Where can they learn more?
Yeah, so we're just unboundbabes.com. Highly recommend following our Instagram. It is hilarious. I don't run our Instagram. I wish I was as funny as the person who does, but it's just the handles at Unbound Babes as well. So, yeah.
Well, great. Thanks so much, Polly. Really appreciate you joining us. You're just a wealth of information, and I love your story and want to continue to support everything you're doing. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Frank.
Such an interesting company. You're such an inspiration. I love what you're doing, and you're blazing the path for women in this category, but not just women, anybody in this category, to do what you're doing and creating it, maybe taking a little bit of the negative connotation with sexual wellness away from the game. And I think it's really important because let's just be honest, we've all come from somewhere here, and and honestly, it shouldn't be that taboo. So really love what you're doing, and thank you for doing that, and congrats on all your success, and we'll continue to support as much as we can along the way here. All right, so thanks again for listening, and remember to subscribe to our show. Review it if you can. It does help us, bubble up to find new listeners that could be helped from these great insights and opportunities for startups. And please review it. Review us and send us your feedback. We're listening. We love to hear from you and hear how we're doing, and try to continue to improve this program for you and offer more insights and advice and help. All right, if you have a startup idea and you want to get it started, you may be thinking, oh, next week I'll do it, or the week after, or next month, or next year. No, get it started today. Today is the best day to start up. You can get it going, jot some ideas down, get the domains registered. We're giving you free domains. Get it going, and baby steps, one day at a time as you move forward, because you're not going to want to wait a year. You're going to want to get it going and get it started today, and then you're always going to have another excuse for why today is not the best day. So start it and get it going, and we'll be here to try to help you along the way. So with that, I'm your host, Frank Gruber. I'm the co-CEO of Established. I hope you're staying well and being safe out there, and look forward to seeing you at our summit. It's coming up November 16th through 18th. Until then, keep listening, and we'll keep pumping out content. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Startup of the Year podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll be back with another episode soon.